Hey, welcome to Upon Further Review, brought to you by Coors Light. We are on the road. We're at Radio Row Super Bowl week here in downtown San Francisco. I'm your host, Paul Gutierrez, joined now by a good friend of mine from a long time ago, MJ Acosta-Ruiz from ESPN, NFL Network.
Crazy.
We met a long time ago in Alameda.
Yes, Alameda.
Covering the Raiders then.
Those who don't know about that Alameda facility just don't get it. Okay,
Exactly.
that was my first year there was 2018, so we're talking almost a decade ago, Paul. Time is a thief.
Where does that happen? How does that happen?
I can't even.
See, MJ and I have known each other long enough and close enough that, do you remember you actually bought like cookies from my daughter's fundraiser when she was in elementary school? Now she's a high school senior getting ready to graduate.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But that's what it is. Like once you're a beat writer or a beat reporter somewhere, like it's so tight. We're at practices every day. We're in the locker room every day, press podium every day with the coaches and stuff. So we start to really learn each other's lives.
Not only that, but in terms of just being around a team a lot, you see a lot of things going on. The Raiders have always been one of these franchises that always garners a lot of interest, a lot of things out there. With the Raiders this coming off season, they've got the number 1 overall draft pick, got a new coach coming in. From your perspective, at 35,000 feet up above it, you're looking down on the Raiders. What do you see as this off season kind of meaning for this franchise?
Yeah, I think it's not just a reset, right? Because we talk about a rebuild, a new structure, new staff, certainly, new front office folks coming in. I think that it is a moment where they can really set their identity in Las Vegas specifically. I mean, there's been quite a bit of transition there, especially since the team moved, that I think this is an opportunity, especially with the first overall pick, to really set the foundation for what they want this franchise to look like in this iteration, in this chapter, right? There's still so much to build on, but the Raiders brand and the Raiders lore has always sort of stood the test of time. Even when they're doing poorly in terms of a record, there's still always eyeballs on the black and silver.
So when you're talking about the Raiders and those eyeballs on the Raiders as well, the number 1 overall pick, they're on the clock right now. But they're also, right now, but they're also on the clock to get a new coach in there as well. So how important is it for coach and quarterback to come in together and to kind of grow together?
Yeah, everything. I don't know. That's the part where I have a question mark, right? Not knowing really how that relationship builds. And we see the difference that makes in franchises that are successful when you have that tandem. But it doesn't always mean that it has to be simultaneous, right? Sometimes I think it's helpful if it is a coach who has been there, who has set up his system, who has set up how he wants things done, and can create an ecosystem where a quarterback can come in and they can really pour into him, develop him properly, and get him to where he needs to be. Not every quarterback, as we know very well, translates apples to apples from their college career to the NFL. It's a big learning curve for most of these guys.
And from the Raiders' perspective, through their history since the 1970 merger, they've only used a first-round draft pick on a quarterback 3 times.
Crazy?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Mark Wilson, Todd Marinovich, Jamarcus Russell. And if it is this year, this is the guy, the number 1 overall pick has been projected by a lot of people. You might have a little intel here, being a Miami girl yourself.
A little Miami boy. And I think people get that confused because they only think of college. And of course, we're talking about Fernando Mendoza and his now Indiana, but before that he was at Cal.
At Cal, across the bridge.
Right across the bridge. But he did grow up in Miami, went to Columbus High School, Cuban family. He's very proud of his Cuban American heritage. And it's interesting because a lot of players come out of Miami that are in the league, not just University of Miami, but that are bred in South Florida playing Pop Warner football. I covered youth sports specifically early on in my career, so I've seen, kids come up from when they were, when the helmets are too big and peewees, all the way through their high schools, and now they're 5-star recruits, and Fernando was one of them. And so it's interesting to see now he went back home and won the championship there for a different school. I'm very excited to see how he translates to the NFL and with the pressures of the NFL, how they will test him, and more importantly, how they will help him grow into the quarterback he will be.
You touched on something that really hit on me too, and the fact that he's really dives into the Cuban heritage, the Latino heritage. And the Raiders, you dig in their history, you got Tom Flores, you got Jim Plunkett, you've got that kind of synergy going on as well, where you can tap into that fan base. How important is that as well?
Yeah, I mean, the Raiders, this is no lie, globally have one of the biggest Latino fan bases across the board, no question. I mean, being in this region certainly helps, but I think bringing in a different audience, a Caribbean audience, is huge too, right? So it's all of these layers to that identity, to that like Raider Nation identity that I've loved so much. And I will say, when they were in Oakland still, back when we met, Raider Nation, especially the Latinos in that fan base, were the ones that said, "We have a Latina reporter." And they embraced me and brought me me in, and they would give me more tidbits and history about the team, and it really made me a better reporter to serve them better. So, I mean, I love it, and I think that he will fit in perfectly with that.
And with you were just honored, and I was at the reception the other night, honored as a Latino who shaped sports.
Yeah.
The Raiders have shaped sports a lot, too, by being so inclusive and things
100%.
like that. So if he does come in, and that's something that the Raiders can move on to. But there's also the X's and the O's of other things on the team. They've got close to $100 million in cap space.
Yeah.
A lot of things need to happen. Where do you think the Raiders need to really make some moves here? If he is indeed the pick and they go for a quarterback, there's some things that they have to do to surround him, to protect him.
I mean, I always say, especially if you're getting a brand new quarterback, hasn't been in the league yet, protection is important.
Yeah.
That offensive line has to be aces. And nobody wants to talk about the offensive line because it's not,
It's not sexy.
It's not sexy. It's not, but come on, big sexy. Let's talk about the big guys.
Yeah.
They do all the work, get very little credit
Absolutely.
until someone wants to put the blame on them. So I think they shore up there. Make sure that his weapons are top tier as well. Make it easy for your guy.
Yeah.
Right? Give him some receivers. Give him some slot guys that can really move around. I think that would be great too. But that's just a wish list.
Yeah. Well,
I don't cut the check.
Well, that's the whole point of the offseason, right? Every fan, every journalist, everybody that's covering the team has that wish list to go forward. So for you, where do you want to see the Raiders go? Because anybody I talk to, they always talk about the NFL is much better when the Raiders are better.
That's a fact.
Yeah, where do you want to see them go this offseason in terms of whether it's coach, quarterback, draft, free agency? What do they need to do to get this thing going right again?
I think a coach for sure, because the team goes by the way of the coach. It starts from the head down. And I think that sets the presence and the tone and the identity of the team. And you need a strong backbone for this squad in particular, not just because of the demands of the league, the demands of the division, if nothing else,
right,
but certainly the demands of the fan base and what they have learned to become accustomed to with Raider Nation and its tradition and where they want to get back to. So I think the coach starts there. I don't know what the rumblings are around Tomlin. I heard he's trying to be on our side.
Oh, really?
One of us.
Oh, on the journalist side.
On the journalist side.
Okay, you got me.
But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
But you need a strong character in that position.
Lastly, I know you're busy. You got a lot of other interviews to do today, but I want to get your take on. There seems to be a young core that they can really build around.
Yeah.
Ashton Genty at running back, Brock Bowers at tight end. How exciting could it be for those guys with a new offensive mind potentially coming in as a coach?
If you get that three-piece, that trio going, right? You got a nice big tight end who can go out, block for you, and also get some catches going, some yak as well.
Yeah.
But I think Genty is still only scratching the surface, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you get him excited about who his QB is, who's throwing to him, and they can build that relationship together, that can be really, really dangerous for the rest of the league, for sure.
And fun for Raider fans as well.
Yeah.
MJ, thank you so much. And again,
Thanks,
congratulations
Paul.
on the award
Thank
the other
you.
night, and we're good to go.
And thank you for always supporting.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey, welcome back. I'm now joined by Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated, one of my former haunts a long time ago back in the 90s. Albert, I don't know if you remember this or not. You and I hung out quite a bit at the 2009 NFL owners meetings. Dana Point, you were trying very, very hard to break the news of Josh McDaniels becoming the Denver Broncos head coach at that time.
That was, I remember that owners meeting because that was one where Roger Goodell was talking about the lockout.
Yes.
And he had behind him this unbelievable backdrop. And was talking about the financial realities. And I think it was TJ Simers called him out and was like, well, wait a minute, we're talking about financial realities. Look around. So
exactly.
I guess those are two different things for different types of people.
A world away, a world ago, time ago and everything. And now we're here in 2026 trying to figure out where the time went. But for the Raiders at that point, also at those owners meetings, I remember Al Davis holding court at a hotel, and he couldn't believe that Jim Plunkett wasn't in the Hall of Fame. He didn't know of any other quarterback who wasn't in, that had won 2 Super Bowls. Somebody said, well, Tom Brady. Now look where we are. Tom Brady is now the football czar for the Raiders. This offseason, a lot of things happening for the Raiders. Number 1 overall pick, new coach coming in, almost $100 million in salary cap space. How would you describe what the Raiders are about to embark on this offseason?
I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for them for sure. Presumably they'll have a head coach on Monday with Clint Kubiak coming over from the Seahawks. And I think there's a lot of work to do as far as building a staff out. The good news for them is they'll have sort of their run of who's left and have a chance to pursue what's out there. And most of the other new coaches have completely filled out their staffs. I don't know. I think the Cardinals are the only ones that have coordinator jobs open, so they won't have to rush things. They'll be able to kind of put together the staff as they see fit. And like you said, having the number 1 overall pick, having a pretty good idea of who that's going to be, I think allows them to plan a certain way and try to create the right environment for a young quarterback.
Talked to a couple different people here, whether they were former players or media members, about that number 1 overall pick, and a lot of them were pretty much unanimous. And yeah, Fernando Mendoza's the guy. Go get him. Donovan McNabb suggested trading that for more picks. Which camp do you kind of fall into here?
I mean, I think it's hard to pass up the opportunity to draft a young quarterback. That said, I think you have to be convicted that the guy is going to be able to get to a second contract and be worth what a second contract would cost you.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, 5 years from now, or 4 or 3 years from now, could wind up being $70, $75 million per year. So to me, like, that's the bar. And, I think it's an open question because Mendoza is very clearly the number 1 pick or number 1 quarterback in this year's class. But, I think if you plugged him into the class 4 years ago or 2 years ago, that had Drake May and Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels in it, he's probably the 4th quarterback to go. So, I think a lot of this is going to come down to their own evaluation, but I'd be stunned if it wasn't Mendoza. And then you have to try to do everything you can to get the right people around him. Again, not seen as like the sort of prospect that would be the number 1 overall pick in whatever draft he was in.
Yeah.
But, a really good prospect who I think projects to be like a Jared Goff type of quarterback. And while maybe that's not having a Josh Allen,
right?
I mean, Goff's gotten to championship games with 2 different franchises, and he's been to a Super Bowl.
Been to a Super Bowl as well. It's all about surrounding that young quarterback with talent, obviously, and it's addressing the offensive line. There's a couple nice pieces that he has to work with already in Ashton Genty at running back, Brock Bowers, and Michael Mayer for some 12 personnel at tight end. What else can they do offensively to get better? Offensive, obviously getting a coach with an offensive mind would have something to do with that.
Yeah.
But what specifically can they do to get to improve?
Well, I mean, a part of it's going to be their evaluation, the new staff's evaluation of the talent that's on hand. So what do they think of Jack Besh? What do they think of Jackson Powers Johnson? There are some evaluations that have to happen there that I think are going to be part of where you go and how you plan going forward. So we don't know what those are going to be yet. I don't think Clint Kubiak knows what those are going to be yet because he hasn't had the time to sit down and do it. But I don't think there's anything more important than trying to create a good environment for your young quarterback. And that means going and getting him a receiver of some sort would be near the top of the list. That means probably fortifying the offensive line. Again, the evaluation of young guys like Powers Johnson and DJ Glaze is going to be a big piece of that. And then from there, you've got holes on defense to fill too. So it's a lot of cap space that they're working with. But the caveat to that is generally, if you're working with a lot of cap space, it's because you don't have a lot of guys on your own roster that are worth paying.
That's true. I don't think fans realize that.
That's where they are.
Yeah, especially on the defense, man. I'll end with this. They basically have to rebuild the linebacker room again because they're all free agents again. Have you dived into or dove into the draft space yet in terms of seeing what kind of guys are out there? Are there any kind of linebackers that could potentially be like a late first round, early second round?
I'm not deep enough into it yet. Yeah. We still don't know who their coordinator is.
Yeah, that's another.
And that's going to be a big piece of what they're looking for at the position. The one guy that I think everybody expects to be gone really early is Arvell Reese from Ohio State, who had a great year, first-team All-America linebacker. But if you're taking Fernando Mendoza first overall, you're not going to get Arvell Reese.
Right.
So I still have a lot of digging to do when it comes to what's going to be available in this year's class. And I do think that that's one of those positions that's really subject to what you're doing from a scheme perspective. And we don't know what they're doing from a scheme perspective yet on that side of the ball.
Who's the coach? Who's the coordinator? Who's the draft pick? How are they attacking it all? So, yeah, obviously, one step in front of the other. Albert, thank you so much for your time.
All right, thanks, Paul.
All right, take care. Hey, coming up, don't go anywhere. We've got Ian Rapoport, the rap sheet from NFL Network. He's going to stop by and help us break down what the Raiders can look forward to this offseason.
I love it, man. Matter of fact, when I walked in the locker room, I thought I was going to start crying.
It's fantastic. It's a beautiful stadium.
Hey, welcome back to Upon Further Review. I am now joined by NFL Network's Ian Rapoport. Ian, thanks. I know you're a very busy guy around here.
I got time for you guys.
So when you're looking at the Raiders this offseason, a lot of things. Number 1 overall draft pick, new coach coming in, almost $100 million in cap space. What are you looking for as storylines this offseason, besides the 3 I just gave you, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, right. And those are the big ones, but they're not the only ones because, I mean, this has really the makings of a dramatic offseason for the Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, you have a new coach who, I mean, fans are going to see it on Sunday if they haven't really been paying attention. Clint Kubiak is one of the bright young minds of the NFL. You know, not a fiery type, but certainly has that edge, certainly can lead. And I know someone the Raiders are really, really excited about. Chose the Raiders.
Yeah.
I know had a chance to go a couple different places. Chose the Raiders. Wanted to be here because of the organization. And look, it's a big job. You know, I think everyone knows what it would be like if the Raiders got back to where everybody wants them to be. But this is where he wanted to be. And then, you know, you got the quarterback. You know, I would expect it to be Fernando Mendoza. I'd be surprised if it isn't. His future seems unbelievably bright. You know, he's I think fans are really going to like him. His personality is a little different, but he just loves football. He loves to work. He loves to win. And he's done it at the absolute highest level. I think there's a lot to like for the Raiders moving forward.
How much of a fan favorite can he be? Like you said, there's something different about him, but the fans are going to gravitate towards him. The Raider fan base obviously loves the inclusiveness of it. And
yeah, I mean, I think the Raiders fans are going to love him because he's going to be really good.
Okay.
You know, I think he's going to be really good. And the interesting thing about him is, like, we see it every year where, like, a team needs a quarterback and they'll take, like, a Joe Burrow wins the national championship at LSU, had one of the most talented teams ever, and so you take the best quarterback on the best and most talented team, and that's your guy.
Right.
This is not that.
Right.
Indiana did not have the best talent.
Right.
They had really good players, but this is not Alabama, Georgia, Texas, whatever. It's different. He has taken a place and elevated it because of his play and his personality and what he is. So there's a lot to like about Fernando Mendoza, if that is what it ends up being, but it's not just like how far he can throw the ball or whatever. It's like all the other things he brings and help rise up an organization. And I think, you know, that's certainly something fans are going to gravitate to.
Looked like we were about to break some news there, but when you're looking at looking at the Raiders, there are some pieces that are back. Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, offensively as well. What other things do the Raiders need to do to protect, if it is the quarterback, if it is Fernando Mendoza, to make sure that, you know, you put him in a position to succeed?
Nothing more important than the offensive line. Right. And I think the Raiders are going to be better because the offensive line is going to be much better coached this year. Yeah. That was not good last year, is what it is.
Right.
Everyone saw it. Coaching is going to be a lot better. I know that for sure. And, you know, I think solidify the offensive line. That makes everyone better. And that's, you know, we just came off a coaching cycle where we had 10 guys hired.
Right.
And so it's interesting to where the focus of the hires are. And as soon as a coach gets hired, the first thing is, who's my offensive line coach?
Right.
That's the most important. So I would say, my guess, that's the biggest focus. And I would also say it's not just like, who can we add? I think the Raiders have good players.
Yeah.
They just need them to play well.
And they have a lot of their own free agents as well, 20 plus of their own free agents. So they got to make some decisions there with John Spytek. How exciting could it be this offseason for John Spytek now that we know exactly what the flow chart is? Coach answers to the GM, GM answers to Tom Brady from the football side of things.
Yeah, I mean, I think for Spytek, he's in a much better position to succeed now than he was last year. I think he's really good. I know people around the league I talk to view him as a really good up-and-coming general manager. He's going to have his chance to put a stamp on. And I don't know that it's going to be like they got a lot of money to spend. And maybe it'll be splashy, but it might not be.
Right.
It might be more of like set the foundation by getting like 8 really good players. That's sort of what teams with this kind of money have done.
Yeah.
Is like, don't just get a couple of splashy free agents. Get a lot of good players.
Foundational type players.
Yeah, exactly.
It reminds me when Reggie McKenzie was the GM, and he said, just because I have a lot of cap space doesn't mean I'm going shopping. at Macy's, but he tried to build something there. So,
and Reggie did a really nice job of it, getting to where they need to go for a while.
Ian, I know you're busy. Thank you so much. Okay, coming up next, we've got Carmen Vitali from Fox Sports Radio. She's got a unique perspective on Fernando Mendoza, the prospective #1 overall draft pick. Don't go away.
Meet Max Out. He's a credit wrecker. His eyes are bigger than his wallet. And his credit score pays the price. You see, Max doesn't know he should only use 30% or less of his credit limit, because using his full line can lower his score. Don't be like Max Out. Instead, learn how to avoid the wreckers at creditwreckers.com. Credit One Bank, for what's ahead.
Hey, welcome back. I am now joined by Carmen Vitali of Fox Sports Radio. Carmen, thanks for joining me. And I guess, you know, the randomness and the weirdness of Radio Row is you never know who you're going to run into.
You never do. So, and in fact, I just ran into somebody that I think Raiders fans might be interested to know about.
Do tell.
Fernando Mendoza.
Okay.
The national championship winning, former now Indiana Hoosier. I am from the Midwest. And I have a ton of friends that went to Indiana. It's been, I went to a Big Ten school for grad school. It's been a wonderful story. I've enjoyed following him, especially this year. Sweet baby angel Fernando Mendoza.
Sweet baby angel.
That's what I keep calling him because he is. He's a sweet baby angel. And I was on our Fox Sports set getting off of our show. He was coming on to go on the herd. So we just stopped, chatted for a hot second. I congratulated him and said, you know, and he was like, we told him we were all NFL reporters, and he was like, I hope to be seeing a lot more of you these days. Hope, not like gonna see more of you, not what, like hopes to see a lot more of us. It was so sweet. We told him he'd probably regret saying that, but it was very nice.
So the sweet baby angel, I'm getting a sense that you can make a T-shirt, maybe sell it on the Las Vegas Strip if things do happen that way.
Yeah, sweet baby angel Fernando, and then I don't know, maybe with some wings or something in Raiders colors. We were just talking about how black is a great color scheme.
Absolutely, and he's already got Heis Mendoza kind of wrapped up.
He does.
Going that way.
He does.
When you cover the NFL, when you're looking at it, how do you think his skill set then could potentially translate to the NFL game?
He's just so consistent. And I think that when you're talking about, I mean, yes, you see some of these phenomenal athlete quarterbacks. You know, I cover the Bears very, very closely. You see what Caleb Williams can do. Fernando is a sneaky athlete, don't get me wrong, but he's not kind of to that level. But not everybody needs that guy. You need a stable presence under center. You need a guy that has command of the offense. You need a guy that the team can rally behind, that can be a leader. Those are all things that Fernando Mendoza has embodied at Indiana. And he's so well loved. He's absolutely, by all of his coaches, by their GM is a really good friend of mine and just has the most wonderful things to say about how zeroed in he is constantly, how focused, how determined he is, and what a joy he is to be around. And I can't think of any GM, any coach that wouldn't want that guy on their roster.
You said something early on there about him being sneaky athletic, and I don't think nobody really saw that or it actually came to fruition on that 4th and 5 touchdown.
It sure did, didn't it?
As he's bouncing off everybody, running people over and scoring the touchdown, extending. How does that translate to the NFL, you think? Because quarterbacks, you don't want your quarterback getting hit a lot, but if he shows that, he's going to win that locker room over like that.
It goes to how bad do you want this, right? And extending plays is particularly important, I think, too, when you look at maybe a developing offensive line, an offensive line that isn't quite where it needs to be, where you can rely on that protection. Or getting out very well for the Raiders as they continue to build this offensive line, which I know is a priority for John Spytek.
Right, that's what I was going to ask you about. What building blocks does John Spytek need to bring in? Because if Sweet Baby Angel is the #1 overall.
Don't get Sweet Baby Angel Fernando hurt, please.
What type of pieces does John Spytek need to address this offseason to protect not only offensive line, obviously makes all the sense in the world, but you already have a piece in Ashton Genty, you have a piece in Brock Bowers.
Exactly.
What other things need to happen to make it, especially for a brand new coach coming in too?
It starts up front on the offensive line for everyone, right? You want to get that ground game going as a complementary piece to your quarterback coming in. you have Brock Bowers, who can obviously be a part of that blocking scheme, and he creates so many mismatches because of what an incredible athlete he is. But I worked with John Spytek in Tampa when I was with the Buccaneers for 6 years. I know John very, very well, Spy very, very well, and his wife. And one of the things that I love so much about him, and I mean, it was an extension of Jason Light's philosophy in Tampa, which was, it does all start up front with the offensive line. That's something that they put a lot of priority into. And that is, I mean, you can't remake a whole one overnight, although maybe the Bears are kind of making everybody look bad in that regard with what they did this year. But I know that Spy knows the importance of an offensive line, a solid offensive line that can really give his quarterback time, that can block in the run game, a very well-rounded unit. And I have all the faith in the world that he is going to continue to build along that unit, and this year in particular.
A unique perspective. Thank you so much for stopping by. I know you got more people to see and run into potentially around Radio Row.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. Hey, well, that's going to do it for this week's edition of On the Road. Upon further review here from Radio Row Super Bowl week, want to thank all of our guests that we had here today. MJ Acosta-Ruiz, Albert Breer, Ian Rapoport, and Carmen Vitali. To stay up to date on everything Raiders related, you can watch all our shows on the YouTube channel, or you can also log into Raiders.com.